Now, guys, let's start with Lauri trades because there's two parts of this that I find very funny. Number one, that they're looking for Mitchell and Gobert level returns is the reporting that is out there on that, and how you define that and what that means, I think complicates if they're actually going to trade him at this deadline, because I don't know if anyone's rushing to do that for Markkanen. And then secondly, I would also say that John Collins has also now been listed on the trade market, and apparently John Collins can't help but just be listed as a possible trade target. But I feel bad for him in that case. But let's start with Lauri trades. Wes, do you have a landing spot? Do you have a deal that you like if Lauri is in fact able to be dealt?
So I came up with three different landing spots that I really like. But my favorite one, if to me, Lowry is an interesting player. It's kind of hard to build a trade for him just because he doesn't make a ton of money. So when you're trying to match salary, it's like, okay, you're not really getting a star player back in return that's making 25 to 30 million dollars. You're kind of getting like these 18 million dollar players, and it's kind of, you got to start building weird stuff. That said, I was trying to think, what's a team that doesn't really need playmaking because he's not a great playmaker, but could use his size and use his shooting. And I thought about the Miami Heat, obviously, and that's my favorite landing spot. The trade's hard, but you could kind of put a bunch of players together and then you end up getting matching salary. Miami would get Lauri Markkanen, Chris Dunn, and Kelly Olynyk on an expiring contract. Utah gets Kyle Lowry, Nikola Jovic, and 2 first-round picks. I don't know that that's quite the Gobert Mitchell return, but also can we just stop kidding around here? Like, Markkanen's a fine player. He ain't Gobert. He's not Mitchell. I understand that Danny Ainge has got to say Danny Ainge things, but it's not happening. It might be like 2 or 3 first-round picks, and if you're Miami, that's probably the best offer you could put is 2 first-round picks and then a first-round pick from a couple of years ago who's still really young in Nikola Jovic.
So Chris can see the notes, and that is almost identical to the package that I put together as my pick, Wes. But I think I can translate Ainge for you guys if you need me to on this, because what he said as far, what was leaked as far as Mitchell and Gobert caliber packages, that's Danny Ainge for I'm going to win the trade. That's all that he means. So Chris said at the beginning, we don't know exactly what that's going to look like or how feasible it is. It's probably not going to be a similar caliber of trade, but we have to react the same way we did to both of those trades, and that'll make Danny Ainge, happy. That'll suffice for the Utah front office. And I think I'm in line with you, Wes, that the number of first-round picks, I mean, the Gobert thing is a once-in-a-generation type of trade. I don't think that's even reasonable as a starting point. I think Donovan's just better because he can create offense. You mentioned as a playmaker, that's probably not Markkanen's game. He's probably like as good as you could get as a play finisher, but he doesn't have that other element. So you're cutting a pick or two just for that reason. So I end up coming down the same place as you, and I think a couple of first-round picks, but I think the way that a team could add some more value for the Jazz is to potentially take, you mentioned Olynyk. Yeah, John Collins could be an option there. But I think Talen Horton-Tucker is an expiring, if I'm looking correctly. So it's not exactly like some sort of saving grace for them, but you at least do them the favor of getting him out of their rotation, not forcing them to be the team that pays them the next contract. And I think that could be an aspect of this. They have such clean books, though, that the Jazz, on top of Markkanen making not a lot of money, that it does get a little bit messy. So that's kind of where we are with the state of things, but I love the Heat fit. It's just it's an upgrade on the Myers Leonard, the Kevin Love, the spot that they've kind of always liked to have next to Bam, but it's like the primo A version of that instead of the C+ guys they've been rolling out there.
You got enough ball handling, enough guys who dribble the ball between Bam, Tyler Hero, and Jimmy Butler. You need a guy who doesn't need to dribble the ball and, like you said, could just finish a play. And that's Lauri Markkanen. He can also rebound, provide some size in that front court. There's also a way that I kind of like it. It's a lot of guys now involved in the trade, but if Miami really needed to try to tip the scales, there's a way that they could include like Caleb Martin, Thomas Bryant's small salary. Like, you just kind of bunch a bunch of salaries together, and you can also take back John Collins in that deal. And I've almost tweeted this a couple of times. Is it possible that the Jazz overpaid for John Collins?
Yeah,
they traded
because
nothing.
Well, they want to trade him already. So, like, yeah, they probably did. If you want to trade someone you got 4 months ago or whatever, you probably overpaid for someone that you don't even actually want.
What was it, like a conditional second-round pick or something that they traded for him? It was like basically Zilch.
Rudy Gay.
And Rudy Gay. So nothing. They traded nothing. I didn't even know Rudy Gay was still in the league, so that's great. Yeah, I think they overpaid for John Collins. That said, Brendon, to your point, like that's the only thing that's sort of messing up their books right now is that salary. So if you were trying to tip the scales in your favor, in what is probably going to be a competitive trade market, if they really make Markkanen available here, that might be one way to do it. But
Do you like this deal, Chris?
I like this deal. I think you guys picked a very obvious team for this, which I think makes sense. This is the team that has incentive to make some kind of aggressive move. I may or may not have been texting Weston last week trying to be like, so Jaime Jaquez, what can we do for Donovan Mitchell?
Untouchable.
Also, yeah, sure. You say that now.
Is he?
I also
Would you
did-
trade him for Markkanen? Is that just crazy?
Would you? Is
I would not.
Who, if you had to give him up for one person, would it be for Mitchell or would it be for Markkanen? You can't say I wouldn't give him up.
No,
I
I
need you
would
to
give-
actually
I know.
answer the question.
If I have to pick, I would pick Mitchell. I think Lauri Markkanen's a good player. I think he's a little overrated now. Is that okay? Like, I think he's
Well,
a lot closer to Michael Porter Jr. than like a year-to-year All-Star.
The thing that Markkanen has that puts him over that for me is that in Utah the past year and a half, he has added a level of like force and power to his game that just hadn't been there before, that makes him a different kind of player than he was before. I mean, he shot 70% at the rim last year, 78 this year, and he had never been above 65 prior to that. And he's getting to the rim more. He is drawing more fouls than he ever did in his other stops. Like he has just turned into a guy that remembered he's 7 feet tall since getting to the Jazz, that to me would add another element. You're not just getting like Davis Bertans, but better. You know what I mean? You're getting like a legitimate 3-level guy in a way that when the Cavs gave him up, they had no idea that they were getting rid of that, and he really wasn't that. Now he is.
Yeah, the free throw attempt rate just skyrocketing since he's gotten to Utah is a plus. The fact that they've been asking him to become more of a playmaker and it just isn't happening is my worry. It's just like, hey, the Jazz want you to be it, but you just don't have it in the bag. It's just not going to happen for him. So he's a better player than Michael Porter Jr. I didn't mean to be insulting, but I also don't think that this is a guy that's sort of like a perennial all-star, which is kind of the way that I feel like he's talked about. I think he's a very good player. I think he's a top 50 player, top 60 player in the NBA. But yeah, I think just this idea that he's going to just get you like the Mitch, it's not going to be it's sort of a sweepstakes to me. I think there's teams that could use Lauri Markkanen, but if they don't get him, I think it's just like, all right, we didn't get him.
All right, speaking of Davis Bertans, this is a great transition to my trade. The Oklahoma City Thunder. Let's do some business.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make a
First time in a
Lowry.
long time.
Yeah, let's make a Lowry Chet front court, and I think the construction here is pretty simple. This may catch Brendon off guard because I've been sort of an advocate of not rushing to break up the creators they have. But let's do Josh Giddey, Davis Bertans, and let's say 2 picks, maybe a third one with some protections for Lauri Markkanen. The Jazz get the big Uber creator. They get Bertans' salary for fun. Lauri Markkanen goes to a pretty perfect situation for him, I think. If you're putting him next to Shea, putting him next to J-Dub, him and Chet as a front court, I think is a ton of fun. Tons of spacing. You putting him with Shea, you're putting him in that ecosystem. The need for him to be a really plus creator just isn't there, and it allows him to play to all of his strengths as a player. I think the Thunder, and I think this would make the raise the Thunder ceiling. I think they've been awesome this year. I understand there's some either way, this is gonna kind of put the dollar in your future a little bit higher, just considering Giddey would have to get paid too, but Markkanen only has the 2 years left on his deal. Like, you're kind of going to pay him in this case. But I just love the fit of him with Shea. I love the fit of him with Chet. I love the fit of him in that ecosystem, and it's something that covers for him and also gives the Thunder, I think, something they need, which is another bigger-bodied front-court shooter type that I think could really fit with that team and keep helping that team evolve. The Thunder, to me, are the most fun team for almost any trade, but Lowry, I think, is a particularly fun one.
Yep. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The fit to me is just, it's almost like what you would be paying him paying for him and then eventually literally paying him versus what you would be asking him to do. I feel like I haven't gotten over the finish line with the Thunder fit yet for that reason, because I'm of the opinion, as we'll get to in the Western Conference check-in that we're doing today that like the Thunder are much closer than needing a Lauri Markkanen. And so if you get him, sure, why not? They have all the assets in the world. I'm not going to say no to a trade that makes the team better. But I kind of think that they sort of just need a Michael Porter Jr. type, right? Whereas Markkanen can do more. You're going to have to give up enough to satisfy the Jazz because he can do more, and then you're going to kind of ask him to be a spot-up guy. So I just think Oklahoma City is such a finely tuned machine, and their needs are pretty incremental versus a big move like this, even though because they have all these assets, they're obviously the team we're always going to think of. They might have just skipped that whole part, and I don't know what they'll use those picks for, but I wouldn't necessarily throw them at Markkanen just because they can, I guess, is how I see it.
Yeah, I think the fit's really interesting. I kind of thought about OKC. I did basically the same trade as you, Chris. I was like, this is kind of the one that makes sense. And then I was like, I don't know if this does it for me if I'm the Thunder. Like, I kind of like the fact that I can at least theoretically put 5 when my best 5 are out there. I've got 5+ defenders who are all switchable, who can all handle the ball. And that's kind of the identity that I've cultivated now. And Lauri falls short in the ball handling department and in the defensive department. And I think I would be looking for more of like a souped up J-Dub to just sort of pair next to J-Dub maybe in that circumstance. Also, I don't think that Sam Presti, I think he should go all in. I think he should make a move, whether it's for an incremental move or just a big move and go for it. I don't think we'll see it. I think he's being maybe a little bit too patient. I would just say go for it. We have yet to see him actually put a championship team together, and I would like to, and that's probably what cost them when it was Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden together. He was like, let's just stay patient, and then the whole team disintegrated. I would like to just go for it, but we've yet to see it here.
To me, what the Thunder need is like Buddy Hield. Like that's kind of the piecemeal that I would be looking for more so. I guess it sounds crazy to say don't go for the home run swing if there's a player out there.
Yeah, you're overthinking. I just
feel like they are such a okay, but I mean I don't think I am because what does that come at the expense of an MVP candidate who's playing point guard for you? Does that come at the expense of your potential like all NBA center who's already like getting more blocks than some players get in their career every night, it seems like. Like, I do think that there is a sort of, it's a zero-sum game, and if you're bringing somebody in who's done a lot in another place, even though you can acquire that player, this team is on pace to win 50-plus games, and they have none of what we're talking about. So what do you really need to get them from that to a championship? Is it a Lauri Markkanen-sized piece, or... in my opinion, it might just be like a Buddy Hield-sized piece. I know that sounds dumb, but it is what it is. They're good. They're good already.
Go get an experienced shooter who can do it in the playoffs to come off the bench and a big man. Just go get like a big. It doesn't have to be – you don't have to make the big man swing. Just go find a guy that's making $5-6 million a year who's 7 feet tall. Like, go trade for Andre Drummond. Like, just do that.
Sure.
That's
at least for now.
Yeah.
Here's all I'll say that I think is where we ultimately disagree on this. I think there is a benefit if you're building a team to, even if there is some overlap, even if there is, you're wondering if you're getting someone who's overqualified for a role. I would rather go down that route, especially when you have the assets to do it. When you're in a position of strength in terms of assets where you could give 2-3 first-round picks and still have other stuff to do if you really wanted to, you're giving yourself just a little more cover, a guy that I think can give you some more diversification in your offense if you need it when the playoffs comes, that can kind of take some of the pressure off Shea to have to be iso ball at somebody's behalf, particularly if you are going to trade Giddey. I just think this is something that helps you evolve and gives you more cover to be a little more diversified, even if Markkanen is overqualified, even if this is expanding the role a little bit. I do just think there's value in saying I don't want to settle. If I'm trading for Andre Drummond and like Dorian Finney-Smith, like that's fine, whatever. Let's aim a little higher for a team that I think could set itself up in a really great way. And I would rather spend the assets on also just frankly something fun. Let me buy the Maserati or like whatever car Markkanen is. I'm not a big car guy. I don't think he's quite a Maserati, but like, I don't want to buy a Toyota
what's big
Corolla.
In Finland? What are they driving over there?
Probably like some kind of like electric car. I would guess there's probably like
some
Polestar.
Northern European Tesla competitor that we haven't heard of.
Right,
the Toyota Corolla is the most popular car in Finland.
Okay, I don't want to buy a Toyota Corolla. Okay, I want to buy the nicest Toyota Corolla I could possibly can buy. I don't want to buy
the floor mats,
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
I don't want the used model that I have to get a tape to plug in to get my like phone to play or like crank the windows down by hand. Just give me the one with all the nice features, and if I overpaid for a little bit, whatever, I have the ability to stomach the overpay. They're the one team that can really do that.
They are. I mean, the Jazz probably can too, but we're talking about
Yeah, but why would
selling,
the
so.
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't. They're not in that
idea.
point. But I'm just saying the Jazz are up there in terms of assets, I guess, too, if and when they wanted to go all in on somebody. And they may have almost done that on Lillard and Holiday, so they're in there too. But, big picture, last thing I would say on the Thunder is you said you would surprise me, Chris, with what you said about wanting them to be aggressive after maybe not wanting that. The guy who you didn't want them to be aggressive moving was Josh Giddey, and it would be a humongous sell low to trade him right now also because not really the off-court stuff, but he's playing awfully. He's just playing not well at all for them. He's getting benched at the end of these games. So if you were to say now is the time to cash in on whatever that trade is ultimately going to be, you're probably getting less than you would maybe by the end of the season into the offseason or even down the line further than that when he might be a more developed version of himself and have more appeal to other teams. Right now, he's a dude who cannot score the ball, doesn't play awesome defense, and gets booed every time he touches it in every road court in the league. That's a weird player to acquire if I'm the Jazz or anybody else in December 2023.
Can I give you guys 3 other trade pitches and just like pitch them? All right.
Yeah.
Lauri Markkanen to the Raptors for OG Anunoby straight up. Solves a lot of problems for both teams. Just an idea. OJ's a free agent. After the year, you don't have to deal with it.
Danny Ainge is asking then for 900 picks for another team who wants OG and
Oh yeah, no, these are the 2 front offices that are just like, wait, no, you owe us the pick. No, we'll get, and then they don't do it, and then they leak it to the media. It's like we got really close, but they didn't meet our price, and it's like, well, who didn't meet whose price? Larry to the Spurs for Keldon Johnson. Maybe throw a pick in there.
That would be fun.
There.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, that's
Larry
good.
That's exactly what I want. Yeah,
Keldon Johnson, I like him for Utah. Just some size on the wing, whatever. It's fine. Last one, Lauri Markkanen to the Philadelphia 76ers for Marcus Morris Sr. is expiring. The nice young player of KJ Martin, who appears to be a fan of every front office. And then
no
3
coaches.
first-round picks. 3 first-round picks. Just throw them in there. They're the other team that can overpay with all their picks that they have. And Larry in Philadelphia spacing the floor for Embiid and Maxey.
Yeah, I
really
like that.
Yeah. I'm really mad that you didn't like that wasn't your actual one because I like that one better than anyone that.
No, because the first one got him to the Miami Heat. You see, so that's a better one.
Yeah,
Markkanen next to a defensive center is important though, and it's part of why the Kessler fit is so good until Kessler started playing not well in his second season and has had injuries and everything this year, but. Markkanen is big. I think he's a good one-on-one defender. He can handle physical players. He can handle long players because of his size, but he's not like a secondary rim protector, turnover forcer type of guy. So I think he's a good positional defender, but you need a real rim protector, a real defensive anchor next to him. So that's why I like Spurs, Philly, Heat, whatever. Those are all good.